is a story that came out on Vox.com September 18, 2017. Although this story is about 2 months old, it's still very significant as far as what it says. Study anti-Black hiring discrimination is as prevalent today as it was in 1989. It's as prevalent today as 1909, as far as I'm concerned. Americans are as racist as they were back in the late 1980s, at least in one crucial area: jobs. A new study by researchers at Northwestern University, Harvard, and Institute for Social Research in Norway looked at every available field experiment on hiring discrimination from 1989 through 2015. The researcher found that anti-Black racism in hiring is unchanged since 1989, while anti-Latino racism may have decreased modestly. They looked at two kinds of experiments: resume and in-person audit. In the first, researchers sent out resumes with similar levels of education, experience, and so on, but the names differ. So some resumes have a stereotypical Black or Latino name, and the others have a stereotypical white name. In the second, applicants go in person to apply for a job. They each share similar qualifications, but some are white while others are Black or brown. In total, the researchers produced 24 studies with 30 estimates of discrimination for Black and Latino Americans, collectively representing more than 54,000 applicants submitted for more than 25,000 positions. They concluded that on an average, white applicants received 36% more callbacks than equally qualified African Americans, while white applicants received on average 24% more callbacks than Latinos. They also found no evidence of changes over time in rates of hiring discrimination for Black people, with anything but the slight possibility of a slow decline ruled out by the studies. With Latinos, the evidence indicates a possible decline in discrimination, although this trend is outside of conventional levels of significance, meaning the data isn't statistically significant enough to draw a solid conclusion. Researchers deployed a variety of controls to verify the results, from measuring outcomes in different ways to controlling for socioeconomic variables like geography and unemployment rates. But they conclude in all models, we see little evidence of a reduction in hiring discrimination against African Americans over time. One complicating factor may be publication bias. Maybe it's possible that studies that find no sign of discrimination are simply less likely to be published, since such findings aren't as shocking. So the researchers sought unpublished studies to include in their analysis, but they found that their conclusion did little to affect our estimate. One caveat to the research: its main findings only go back to 1989. The researchers note that our results do not address the possibility that hiring discrimination may have substantially dropped in the 1960s or the 1970s during the Civil Rights era, when many forms of direct discrimination were outlawed. As some evidence suggests, the study also looked at discrimination at the point of hire, not other aspects of the workplace. And the meta-analysis only found about 24 studies, a low count that the researchers acknowledge may make it difficult to detect subtle changes over time, since a lower amount of data makes estimates a little more noisy. Still, the findings are telling. Since the height of the crack cocaine epidemic and all of the racism associated with the 1980s, anti-Black discrimination in hiring does not appear to have changed. That may help explain why, for example, unemployment gaps between Black and white Americans have also barely changed over time, and why racial wealth and income gaps are still so bad. The bottom line is whether you get a job in America can come down to your race. It always has. It's always been that way in America. And that's likely as true today as it was back in 1989. Okay? But we know job discrimination have always exist. It will exist all the way down to America's last breath. This is something they will never change. I can't tell you how many white people in my life have told me they lied on their resume about their experience just to land a job. But see, in their case, they will just take their word for it. So that's why they can land jobs they're clearly not qualified for. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe, and don't forget to hit on that notification bell. Peace, family.